Here.
Mr. Donahue?
Here.
Ms. Greenfield?
Here.
Mr. Hammond?
Here.
Mr. O'Day?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Ms. Rivera?
Here.
Notice of this meeting was provided to the Bernardsville News, Courier News, and the Star Ledger, filed with the municipal clerk, and posted on the municipal bulletin board on December 11th, 2018. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We have one presentation tonight. Greg, you want to just come up and give us your information to talk about the batting cage?
Yep. Thanks
Thanks for coming.
My name is Greg Zagraffer. I live at 7 Flint Lockport, and for 2019, I'm the president of Somerset Hills Little League. About a year ago, we approached the Recreation Department and committee to see if we could discuss installing a batting cage at Claremont Field. And they said to, speak with Doug Walker, and then, we had an initial meeting. We looked at some space. We got several bids, and, we were at the point where we've received bids back, and we've gone through the area again with Mr. Walker, and we, with your approval, I believe, are looking to break ground soon. Just a little details, it'd be about 15 feet wide and 70 feet long, and it'd be all nice and level, and obviously open to all the baseball and softball players in Somerset Hills Little League, as well as, any players that are in town. Obviously the JV high school team, we expect to use it since they play their home games at the field, and that's it, that's what I'm doing. So.
And you worked out with Doug exactly how to place it, so it works
Yes.
within the property, and it's...
Yeah, we went through several iterations, and we believe we found a good location that meets all the town's requirements.
How are we paying for this? Sorry.
You are, right?
We are.
Yeah,
We're going to foot the bill for it.
Which is great. Thank you.
Thank you for letting us do it, if you do.
What is the location like?
Sure. It's,
Did you have a map?
I have, yeah. Sorry. Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So is this roughly the same size as the one at Kiwanis, or is it smaller, or is it?
It would be roughly the same size. I think Kiwanis might be a couple feet shorter. But it'd basically be around the first base line, and it runs, so if you can imagine, there's bleachers that sit on like a concrete platform. So it would clear the platform to the left. If you're kind of facing home plate, it would be to the left of that, and about 15 feet wide, heading towards past home plate. I'm not very good at north, south, east, west.
35 feet from the playground.
Yes.
From the playground fence for 35
Yeah, you
feet
can
from
see
there.
that.
Yeah. This is like me making a box. This isn't exactly to scale or anything like all of that. So.
And it has all nettings to the balls, don't it?
Everything would be netting. We expect the netting would be to fit a larger cage, so nothing should be shooting out of it. We'll split the cage probably in half so that we can get twice as many people, and that should also reduce the likelihood of balls being hit harder. They'll just be kind of underhand tossed or used off a batting tee. So.
Are you going to use a pitching machine in it at all?
I don't think we expect to do that. I don't know that there's power there to do it. So
Do you know how long the one at Kiwanis has been there?
I don't. I could find out, but it's been a while.
And it's still in pretty good shape, so they hold up pretty well.
I mean, I think it's okay. Yeah, it's still there. We still use it. I mean, we appreciate it, and we try and take care of it as best we can.
I think they use in the off season too. I'm never Reese quite a bit, so
Yeah, as long as the nets are up, usually we'll find people down there
thing
using
too.
them. And of course, in the summer and spring, they're used quite frequently between the league, and then high school kids come down and use them as well, from what I've seen.
So it's a nice project.
Okay.
Amen.
Anybody?
No issue.
Yes.
Sounds good.
So do we need to do a resolution?
No, I think as long as you have a consensus.
Okay, we're good. You're good.
Thank you very much.
All
Thank
right.
you very much for doing that.
Do you have an idea when
Appreciate
it might be installed? Just
Well, I think once we, maybe Doug and I will circle up in the next day or two, and then we'll try and get the guy back. We were trying to get him in as soon as possible, assuming the weather allows it. But I'm hoping in the next month or 6 weeks.
Oh, great. Okay.
Weather permitting.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Welcome. Thanks for letting us do it.
Sure. Okay, we now have an open session, so at this point in the meeting, we welcome comments from any member of the public to help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit the opportunity for anyone who wishes to be heard. Speakers shall limit their comments to 5 minutes. We've got this lovely little sand timer here. If you read from a prepared statement, please provide a copy to Anthony so it's part of the public record. We also ask that your comments be delivered in a respectful way, and we will do the same. So anyone wish to come up? Okay, seeing none, I'll move to close the public session. We're good, okay. Items of business, we have no ordinances. Resolutions, we have 1920 to 1926. Just for the people in the audience, 1921 is just switching Election Day with the day after Thanksgiving. This is for the staff. And the Lincoln's birthday for the day after 4th of July, because that falls on a Friday. The donation for Shade Tree was a $45 anonymous donation.
Thank you, whoever you are.
How much was it?
Whoever it was, yes, we are grateful, $45. It was a cash donation, so yeah, which was nice. The change orders actually is resulting in a 14% decrease in the cost of the contract, so it is a negative $14,178.50, which is unusual for change orders, so that was good. Do we want to do a consent agenda? Is everybody okay with the resolutions?
I got a question.
Yes.
The setting of the recreational pool program fees,
That's not a resolution. Oh, wait, 1922, that one, yes. These are the fees that actually we got for all the programs that Recreation runs, the camps, the after-school fees, the trips. So there's,
I would just like to know how long have these fees been set at these prices, and have the prices, not for residents, but for non-residents, been raised recently?
do you know
I
that?
don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I know we raised them, I don't know if it was last year, it was the year before, I recall, there was an increase. I don't recall how much, but I know it was 2 years ago. We
This
had
year,
for the-
there's none, right?
Right, but 2 years ago, we had a non-resident increase. I can't recall the amount.
Looking at their memo, they said there's no changes, so.
From
it's-
last year to
right,
this
so
year.
I'm saying the year before, we had a change in the non-resident.
But do you know what percentage
I
that was?
I don't remember.
Because the thing is, if you're gonna raise people's taxes, you can make money up by raising, all these fees for non-residents can be raised. And, that's,
Can we just table this and maybe ask for more information from Recreation? I think it might be useful to see how many people actually, non-residents, participate, and if there's that significant a cost for, how much more we bring in by raising those fees, and maybe give Cheryl some time to give us more information.
I think about a meeting, part of the conversation was a few years ago, there was complaints about so many non-residents being at the pool. And so they did raise them to try to raise the barrier to entry. So, but that's, I think that was one of them why they raised them a couple of years ago. But I think it's been, we just kept them flat, from the last meeting.
Yeah, and I have no idea, how many people, non-residents, take the camps and those kinds of things. So I think that would be useful information to have before we decide.
Plus, we have to consider that if we, say, raise the fees 5% as an example, if 1 out of 20 kids doesn't come as a result of the higher fees, then we won't make any more money.
Right.
We'll end up with the same amount of money.
well,
We'll
no,
make
you got an
5%
awful
more
lot
on.
of, not really, you got an awful, you have to find out how many people
Yeah.
participate.
That's what I'm saying, though.
Right.
If you raise the fees by 5% and 1 in 20, 5% of the kids stop participating,
Well, yeah.
then you wouldn't
Well, of
necessarily
course,
make
but we
any
don't have
money.
that information, so how can we make a judgment?
I'm
That's-
not saying that.
Yes.
I'm just saying that we have to think about that.
Right, that's
that
why-
there's some point at which,
Yes.
it may not be guaranteed more money. It may be that there'll be some
Well, it might
level
be,
of
but I
offset.
think it's worth looking into. to get more
Absolutely.
information.
Yeah, okay, so at this point, are we agreed that we table this, pull this one off,
Fine.
and we get more information, and we make sure that we have all that data so that we can make that decision?
So, question for Ralph: does this delay anything if we don't approve it tonight?
No, I don't believe so. I think we're
Okay.
ahead of the
Okay.
meeting.
All right.
Okay, so,
So just to be clear then, what we're going to ask Cheryl and the committee to provide is, are we going to ask for just a static number, or are we gonna ask for a trend over time, or what?
I think we should ask for the history of
Yeah.
both resident and non-residential participants. That's
Well,
one thing,
I
right?
wouldn't raise the
And then-
residents, I would raise the non-residents.
No, but I just mean we
Well,
would
that's
ask her
true.
for the data to say how many people are residents that actually sign up for the pool, maybe over the last 3 years, how many non-residents over the last 3 years, and how have the rates changed for both of those categories over the last 3 years.
And it's all, there's all these camps, there's like a zillion
Yeah.
camps there and trips.
But are we talking about specifically the, looking
whole
at
thing.
everything?
Yeah, because there's a zillion camps that
Yeah.
are all, non-residents can be in all these trips, non-residents can go.
I think it would be useful if we got all the, like, I would like to see all the participation. How many people,
There's
residents
pages
and
for that.
non-residents, have participated in the last 3 years, maybe? And see, and then we could do a trend and
Yeah,
look
and I'd
at.
also be concerned about sensitivity to price, like, kind of like Tom said, we make a
Yeah.
little bit, but if 3 people or, 10 people bail, we sort of, back to zero.
Yeah.
Kids
And I
lost
don't know how, I know
opportunities.
some of the camps, we have a limited number of scholarships we give out as well for people who can't afford them. So I think that's all useful data that we should have. So that's what we'll ask for, is that
Yes.
seems significant to have a 3-year trend of what the actual enrollments and what the income and revenue was. Okay, that's what we'll ask for.
And history of increases.
Right.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna pull that one off, 1922. So,
John, you're rec liaison, right?
Yes, I am.
he went to his first meeting,
Thank you.
with
And the
somebody.
consensus seemed to be to keep them the same, so, I figured they probably covered this ground, and I wasn't gonna revisit it, and I went with that sort of consensus.
Yeah.
So would somebody move 1920 through 26 without 22?
Move.
Okay, Chris
Second.
moved, John seconded. Roll call?
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Ms. Greenfield?
Yes.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes?
Mr. O'Day?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Ms. Amer?
Yes.
Okay, 6C, Recreation, we had an email from them recommending, it says that they would like to waive the fee again for the next year until the issues with the polo grounds are resolved with the new field and how people can use it and whether there's a water issue. And you were at that meeting.
Yeah, this is fees for, waiving fees for in-town organizations. And if third parties are out of town or just want to rent, to use it, they have to pay, there'd be a fee attached to it. But there's concerns about the drainage on the field, lighting issues, the football couldn't use it last year because of the fencing issue, so, and there was there's been enough interruption in use that the leagues are finding other places to go, so we'll be cutting off our nose to spite our faces, we think, if we charge this year.
Is this just one field? Which
The
field?
turf
It's
field,
the new turf
The
the
field.
new turf field.
Yeah,
But we're charging out of,
Yeah, like if a third party wanted, like a corporate wanted to rent it, or a third out-of-towners wanted to rent it, there would be a fees attached to that.
but you're not, this is to just not charge people in the.
Yeah, for like,
in
the-
Bernardsville.
yeah, Somerset Hill Sports,
Okay.
So,
or any organization.
Jack, is that something that we can do unilaterally?
Well, but we may have to get county approval, because they never approved the fee schedule to start with, because it's built, as you know, primarily with a county grant. I think they contributed $700,000 towards the construction of the field.
so they approved the fee schedule,
Yes.
what we would charge and when we would charge it.
Correct.
So we would need their approval?
No, I think we would, yes.
Okay, so we can't really make a decision on this till we hear whether the county would even allow it.
Okay. I'll reach out to Bill Cooper and see
Okay.
whether we have to do it or not.
I don't fully understand what the deficiencies in the field have to do with whether we charge people to use it or not.
It's hard to charge people if something doesn't really work well, they can't use it when it's supposed to be used.
But that's,
Well,
but
then-
it's optional.
And also, a lot of them
It's
are struggling, a lot of
discretionary
leagues are struggling financially also, so it'd be an undue burden.
That's another matter.
Well, the effect goes right into this though, too. It's like, but if there was something, they can't monetize a lot of the space there, they can't use advertising, there's no snack shack. There's enough deficiencies that if we
Okay, well,
charge,
Okay, then that's a good argument, but in terms of they have other options for fields, right?
yeah, they prefer to use this one, but they won't go to the other ones because they're afraid if they charge for this, if it passes the families, we'll lose enrollment and the leagues could struggle and fall.
But I wouldn't want to use the fact that they're financially struggling as a reason, because that might be 2, 3, 4 years down, that continues to
Yeah,
struggle.
well, the field is actually, is deficient in a lot of respects. I mean, it's
Okay, but I think that there are some issues that we were addressing, and I think the snack shack, though, isn't a deficiency per se in the field.
Well, the drainage is a deficiency,
Yes.
it's, you know, it's
the
probably,
lighting,
I mean, people out there
probably.
sending me videos of it after the rains.
Yeah.
They go to the high school field, dry as a bone. Our field, there's the crumb in the water is just coming up with each ball bounce. It's not draining right.
I think one of the other things that we have to think about is the big picture, though. We have a responsibility to maintain the field over the long period of its life. It has a useful life. If I remember, Chris, when
10
they were
years.
originally designing
10?
the field, was it 10 years, 20
about-
years?
It was more than 10, but I don't think it was more than that, maybe 10, yes.
So, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it could be more than 10, but just as an example, if we waive the field fees this past year, which we did, and we waive the field fees again, that's 2 years out of 10 or 20%. What I would propose is if we do decide as a council to charge fees for the field, that those funds would be set aside in a separate line item and accumulated over time and spent only on replacement of the turf field. That's the purpose of the fees. The fees aren't to make money or to use it to pave roads or
No,
offset other
right.
expenses.
They're for
The purpose of the
replacing it.
fields is that we realize that the field doesn't last forever, and it'd be responsible for us from a fiscal standpoint for plan for that in advance, so that if there's teams that are using it and there's people who are participating in those sports, we want that to be available multi-generational, so that as the next generation of students or residents come through and they want to use the field, that they have a field that they can use as well. So the purpose of the fees is to replace the field down the road.
I think that was the
So I
original.
think we have to
Yes.
think about
And
this.
I think it is gonna be
And-
segregated.
Why can't we charge half fee?
Right now, I think we can't do anything till we find out if the county will let us do anything. So
I think that's
we
first and
table this
foremost.
conversation till we
Well,
check that and.
Hang on one second,
Yeah.
though, because, hey, Doug, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we had these discussions prior to even it being built, there was many discussions about basic maintenance as far as the raking of it and replacing that black, I forgot what it's called, that fill, right, the infill. And then over time, I think it was somewhere between, depending on use, 12 to 15 years for striping. So was there any rough costs that you can remember off the top of your head to maintain it? How many times a year did it have to be raked and so forth?
We're spending, it's probably gonna be in the neighborhood of about $12,000.
Per
A
year?
year.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
I knew it
Just
was,
for the turf field itself, nothing with the surrounding area, just
Right.
strictly the field.
And do you know what we were spending before it was turf, when it was grass and just, what was,
Just be the fertilization and the mowing, maybe.
and mowing and
of that area,
striping?
Maybe 2,500.
So it's a lot more to maintain.
Oh, yeah.
What would the fees be if we charged them?
We had a schedule,
I asked that question to Cheryl Ferrante, and she sent me an email message that said that the hypothetical amount of fees that would have been charged last year had the teams used it for the hours that they actually used the field, so for football practices, for example, but not for their games, came to about $55,000. You have that?
I have that. yeah.
Assuming if they charge them and actually use them, they balk at that.
So that would have covered the events.
Yeah, the people that actually paid was the boys and girls lacrosse,
These are the people who used it.
who
So
actually
the fees
used
are all
it, who would
hypothetical.
have paid.
Yeah.
But the football people did not. They used the high school field because they
For
wouldn't charge
games,
them.
but they did use it for practices,
Is a fee
Oh, yeah, they
a
got 100.
per use fee, or is it a fee like a?
per hour.
It's an
Right.
hour, it's, like $55. Actually, there, you can see the rates if you want to.
Why can't we charge them for practice? If they're not gonna use it for games, because supposedly it's it's got issues, they still use it for practice. I would be willing to guarantee they're on it.
Yes, they are. And the fee is the same, it's a rental fee for the hour that they're there, whether they're
I'll go back to
practicing
my
or a
original
game, it's
question.
not a different charge.
If they're willing to use it, if it's a nice day and it's not a drainage problem and everything's fine and they're willing to use it, why aren't we charging them? If we'd planned to do that all along.
This is the
Well,
question
we
we're asking
waived,
right
we
now.
waived the first year. That was
Right.
part of
Now
the
we're
original
into the
deal.
second
So
year.
now we're
Well,
into
that
the
was very nice
second
of us.
season.
But let's clarify why we waived it the first year. So the field came online partway through the season for one of the teams, I think it was lacrosse. Because the field became available partway through their season, they said, to be fair, we can't not charge lacrosse and then charge football later on in the same year. So we waived fees for all users for 1 year, because the field was only available for use for a portion of the year. So since it wasn't available all year, we said the first full year of use is when the fees will begin to be assessed.
Well, so, there you go. But you should charge them. Or at least
I
if
think that'd be
there's,
short-sighted, though. I think you'd see diminished use of the field, and also some of the leagues,
then
put some
fix
pressure.
the field. If there's a problem with the field,
Well, yeah, well, it all takes money and time, that's the problem.
well, I know, but
When
we're
it's
not
being
gonna have
addressed,
money
we're
if we
looking at
don't
it.
charge them for it. If we charge them a reduced fee and then fix the field, and then next year charge them with a full fee on the fixed field.
Thing is, we weren't charging them for the old field, so.
Yeah, and that's an
we're
environment of
getting
zero
there.
to quite a bit of money.
And, there's the question of the people that are using it, if they're Bernardsville residents, that, you're gonna have residents complaining that, that we're charging our own people to use our own fields that they are already paying for through their tax dollars. So it's not, I don't think it's a clear cut what we want to do. And it may be worth having them come and talk to us again. I know they've been meeting some of the field people and see where they are in terms of working out how they use the field, because there were some,
But if you
Questions
don't
coming
charge
up.
them for the field, the field needs maintenance. There's
Yeah.
no money for maintenance other than raising taxes, and then they're
well,
gonna be
we have a
paying for it.
maintenance budget that's
No, I
part of
know,
it.
but it's,
But I think to
There's a replacement
Councilman
budget that's.
Greenfield's point is,
Right.
we're saying, well, we don't want to charge the taxpayers, but the taxpayer is going to pay to replace the field sooner or later, right?
Somebody's gonna have to in
Right.
10,
so the
15
people who
years.
use the field should then pay for them.
Well, yeah, and
keep up
then
the
you're
field.
charging a user fee,
Yeah.
right, basically.
It's better than charging everybody.
So I think the concern I have is that if we postpone it, how do we what metric do we use to say, okay, now we're gonna start charging? And if we lose a year or two of revenue that's intended to replace the field, not for other uses, but as a replacement, does that help us or hurt us in the long run?
So I'm getting a consensus here of wanting to decide on this now.
No.
No?
Well, we need the county input, right? I mean, because if the county says,
Well, if you're saying
No,
that
if we
you
go ahead and
want to
vote- we go
charge,
ahead
you
and
don't
vote
need
that
to
we
call the
continue.
county.
oh, I see what you're
because-
saying.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right, because they've approved the fees.
right.
right, if the fee stay as is, then we could go ahead without any county input
Right.
there.
But if you
Well, just
want-
to the point of, reduced usage, they're showing, according to Cheryl Ferranti, over 1,000 hours of usage last year on the field. That doesn't include the games, which they didn't use the field
Right.
for football.
Well, I think that's an accommodation or just a consideration, because they can't use it in some scenarios when they were supposed to use it. Rain, after snow, the melt doesn't happen, so I think as an accommodation, I think we should waive it this year. We've been talking about addressing the issues with the field and revisit it again next year. When everyone knows it's gonna be replaced in 10 or 9 years or whatever the
But if
time's
they're
like.
not using it, it's a usage fee by the hour. If they don't use the field, they're not being charged, so.
But then you'll see an empty field there too. There should be an asset or sort of an attraction to our community, but I think it's, we'd have quite the opposite. We'd have
But they're only being charged if they use it, so
Do we have a background as to why this particular
budget
fee,
issue.
where this number came from? I
It
wasn't
was
here. so-
developed in conjunction with the Recreation Committee. I think Jeff DeLeo led that discussion. I was not involved. They talked about it. I think they benchmarked other towns. And I think that they had some county input. Is that right? Do we know?
The county just approved it at the end.
Oh, okay.
Oh, but they-
So I don't know what the process was. Jeff presented this to us as the council. Do you remember, Chris, what he was saying?
No, I don't.
They investigated a lot of the surrounding towns and did a pretty comprehensive.
Was that
you know,
recreation?
The rec committee, evaluation of other towns and what they're charging for similar facilities. I mean, those numbers,
And
are consistent among the towns in
Okay.
this area.
And I think, I don't know if we've communicated this well as a council, but we're not doing it to make money. We're doing it so that the field is a permanent asset in town and can serve not just this generation of athletes, but the next generation of athletes that's coming along behind them, and that they also have a nice field that they can use too,
Well, and I think our field doesn't really measure up well compared to some of the fields I've been to. I mean, we don't have restrooms, we don't have a snack shack, there's no room for advertising, it can't be lit very easily. It doesn't drain well, so I mean, it's,
There's restrooms over there.
Porta potties.
porta potties.
No, you
There's
walk
restrooms.
through
Well,
the
they're
school.
way over by the school, but, go to Madison or some of the other towns.
It's much closer,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, that all may be true, but if they're gonna use, if they don't wanna use the field for any variety of reasons, fine, they're not paying to use it. But if they were willing to use it, if they wanna use it, if it's attractive enough on certain circumstances to use, why are we deferring the rent that is really only meant to improve the field?
Replace the field, basically,
Chris,
after 10 years.
you haven't said anything.
Well, no, I'm just, it's the 12,000 a year that we're trying to recoup in order to maintain the field
As well
as,
as,
as
As well as set aside money for future.
if there's anything above and beyond that, yeah, but,
I think we have to be careful too. If we're in a situation where we waive fees for one category, are we under any obligation to waive fees for other categories of, say, nonprofit teams or teams from outside? Because right now, the field is open to, who? Is it open, it's open to anybody in the county?
Yes.
Is that right?
And I think the county would object if we had a different fee for the county residents.
versus,
I mean, they approved a slightly higher fee, but I think if we waived the total for borough residents, they would probably object.
But why is this any different than the pool? Then why are we charging for the pool? I mean, it's the same kind of thing. If you're not gonna charge for the, if you're not gonna charge for the fields, then why are you charging for anything?
The group is presented to us, at least
several times,
before the
yes.
election, and I've heard them talk about it. It's not a popular decision, but I think it's a necessary decision. And I don't think we ought to be punting this down the road.
I don't agree. I think we'd sort of put a lot of financial pressure on some of the sport leagues here. That's my takeaway from, all the
All right.
conversations I've heard.
I think I've heard everybody's opinion, so can we take a vote?
Can I see that?
You want to see this?
Yeah, it's really just a straw poll, because if you
Yeah.
don't waive the fees, then no action is needed or
Right.
replaced.
Did they
So-
know going in that there were gonna be fees? Did the teams know? All these, they all knew. Everybody knew there were gonna be fees. So this isn't like we're springing it on them.
And
No.
the high school field, they still don't take one, right?
No, they do not.
I do not.
So we could do a straw poll, Jack?
Yes, and as I say, if in fact you don't waive the fees, no action is necessary, because
Right.
the fees are already in place.
Yes. Okay, so how do I do it, straw? Just ask who
Yeah,
else?
we're down to one.
Okay, so I'll start with Jeff. Waive the fees or not?
I would not waive them.
Not waive. John?
Wave.
Chris?
I tend to say not waive. We did it the first year because they couldn't open them on time. I agree with that. While I feel for the needs of the teams and some of their financial hardships, I do think we need to make a hard decision, so.
Okay. Tom?
I believe that this is an investment in sustainability of these programs and the fields, and that setting aside the money is the appropriate use for any fees that are collected, most especially if we're collecting fees from anybody who's out of town and using our field. And if they have access to it, I certainly think that, waiving all fees, if that were the situation, would allow, other people from for-profit leagues to use our field at no cost. I think it's something that would be a dangerous precedent to set, and I think that we should make sure that we're fiscally responsible in maintaining the asset over the long term. I think therefore the fees make sense.
So that's a no.
I
Diane?
don't want to change it.
I don't think we should waive the fees.
Okay. Christine?
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Okay,
Don't waive.
so then there's no action.
Right?
All right. I don't know if you guys want to see that. Next is 6D, the appointment of Jane Hurwitz for the Historic Preservation Committee. She has been on the committee acting as secretary, but was never appointed to the committee, and there is not an opening right now on the committee. But I think what we need to do, Jack, is to change the ordinance to add a member.
We can do that because it's an advisory committee, so we can certainly
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to go, to do it. So can we do that at the next meeting?
Yes,
Okay. I mean, she can keep going, it's a public meeting, right?
yes.
Yeah. 6E is a Solid Waste Advisory Council nominee. Jeff Horowitz had volunteered for that job. I spoke to him today, actually. He has a background in waste management, so he was interested in doing that. He wanted to find out, he contacted the county to find out what was involved in it and agreed to do it. And we haven't had anybody on that for a while, I think, so he's willing. And again, what we do is we send it to the county. It's our nomination. They may not put him on it. It's up to them to decide, so. So what do we do with that, Jack? Can we do a resolution now to appoint him,
You can do a
or?
motion to appoint. Yes.
I know, unless anybody has,
It's a mayor's appointment, it's a mayor's nominee and a council nominee. There's actually two people, there's actually two spots that you can
really?
have.
I
So
know.
either we do it.
I'd have to
with the
find
council,
another one?
Or the mayor can just nominate, or the whole council can.
But is it with council approval, or?
No,
Okay,
it's separate, but there can be two people.
all right, so that's my nominee.
You can, it can be yours, or council, either way.
Okay,
So I'd just like to thank Jeff Horowitz for his, willingness to take this on.
Yeah.
It's been a vacancy
Yeah.
for us for a number of years, and so, having him step up I appreciate that.
yeah. 6F is Board of Adjustment vacancies. I spoke to their chairman, David, and he was, anxious to get those people on there because they have a lot of times when people have to recuse themselves, so the sooner we could get them. So I went back through our skills bank, and there were a couple of people who actually asked to be on Board of Adjustment. You had in your packet the resumes and the skills bank form for Andrea Adler and Tom Slocum. I don't know if you had a chance to look at them, and I told them when I spoke to both of them that the council may want them to come. I know you've done that in the past, and just so because it's actually your appointment, and have them talk to you and answer questions, and if that's something you want, they could be at the next meeting.
So when I saw this on the agenda, I actually asked Anthony to forward us all the candidates that are interested in participating here, so that, we could look at everybody. I haven't had a chance to see all the different resumes. Certainly these candidates appear qualified, and if there's other people that are interested, I would propose that we take a look at all the potential candidates before making a selection, but happy to move forward on this maybe in our next meeting. Is that?
If you want them to come and so you
Yeah.
can meet them, and
So
I think there
in
were
between
only
we could
4
contact
there, and one we had asked a couple of times and never showed.
Okay.
And I don't remember who the third one was. They were all old, they were all like at least a year old, so I was surprised that they were still interested when I called them, but
Did you call everybody who's put down the?
I think I got to the first 2 who both said yes, and then didn't get to the third one, and I knew the fourth one was the person who didn't show.
I think was there maybe
Is that
7
Michelle
people?
Pinkerton?
Yes,
Yeah, I think there's about, maybe a few more, so I'll go back and I'll put that stuff on.
yeah, I thought I had pulled out 4 of them that mentioned that specific, that I thought their resume matched with the skills.
Because I was just kind of looking at the ones who check Board of Adjustment on their skills bank form, not
Yeah.
necessarily their resume, so.
Yeah, I was kind of matching to see
Okay.
if they had some background that was applicable. And
Which-
these both have legal backgrounds, which I thought was helpful, because you have to read all that legal.
So is this another one of where it's a mayor nomination and council?
No, this is all council.
This is a council nominates, council approves
Yes,
these
correct.
Yep.
positions?
Yep, totally
Yeah.
council appointments.
Were
Both
any-
these were the 2 attorneys, they were both the attorneys, right?
Yes, yeah,
Were any of the people who had indicated an interest to have a building or construction background,
no,
engineering
I don't think
background?
so, no.
Let's take a look at all the candidates. Anthony's put together the consolidated list of everybody.
Yeah, there should be a folder on Dropbox called
Yeah.
Skills Bank Board of Adjustment. I think it was put together at some point this afternoon, so.
Skills Bank Board of Adjustment.
Yes.
So can we plan to,
Well, you can have
Make
these
this
2 come and talk to you
nomination
next
and-
week, and then if you find more, have them come the next meeting, just so you kind of get to meet them and, step up the process a little bit.
It's important to fill these positions quickly because, as you know, use variances require 5 affirmative votes regardless of how many people are there.
Uh-huh.
So many applicants will proceed unless there are at least 7 members there to hear the application, because as I say, if there are only 5 there, they still need 5 affirmative votes, so that's why the chairman, I'm sure, is eager to get them filled.
So that's what I was gonna say, was maybe we could try and have anybody who's interested at the next meeting and before the next meeting or at the next meeting, so that we don't do it over 2 more meetings, which would take a month.
Well,
but
I know
we do it
Tom
at our
from-
next meeting.
I know Tom from my neighborhood, has always been keenly interested in,
Oh, is he?
town and
I didn't
development.
even-
Yeah,
yeah.
he's on Pill Hill. So, I saw his name, so kind of a known quantity to me.
Well, you could have them all come next time if you want to,
I mean, there may be nobody else. Like,
yeah, I think there
when we find out. you
Yeah.
know, but I haven't had a chance to see all the resumes of all the interested parties yet. But what I was going to propose was that the council be prepared by reviewing the information that Anthony's provided. We can reach out to anybody that we think should be added to the list to come in, anybody on the council, and then we could ask all interested parties, including the 2 here, to attend the next meeting, and we'll make a decision. Does that seem fair?
Yeah.
I suppose it's a matter of just due diligence.
But also, rather than taking it over 2 meetings, is what I'm saying.
that's fine,
Right.
if people are
As long as we
available.
fast track that, that would be fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
One thing to keep in mind is that the next meeting, there's, the joint with the planning board. So that's kind of a lengthy.
Oh, it is?
meeting. It's a big presentation in the beginning, so I don't know if that's the best, I don't know.
Can we, let me throw out an idea, can we add on a meeting? Can we make the announcement and then just add on a meeting just to be able to consider the candidates and get it done before that joint meeting?
We could. I don't know what else is at that meeting, but. 'cause
do you know what's
glancing
what's
at
coming up? You
this-
have any idea what's on the next agenda
I only have a
besides that?
couple things, but, things can come up between now and then, so it's kind of tough to tell exactly what's on the whole meeting, but right now I don't have much, but that's 2 weeks away, so.
So what's involved with the joint meeting with the planning board? What,
It hasn't taken long the last few years at all.
Oh, okay.
The planning board, both boards give a summary of what they've done in the last year, basically, and the Board of Adjustment, if they have any recommendations for amendments to the zoning ordinance, they make it, but it's been pretty quick.
So maybe it's a good idea to do it then, because
They'll be here.
some of them will be here.
yeah, maybe David could stay and listen to what people have to say.
Right, okay.
All right, we'll aim for the meeting at the end of the month for candidates to come.
Do you want me to email all the people who checked Board of Adjustment on their skills bank and invite all of them? Is that what you want me to do?
Well, I think what I was envisioning was that the council members review the resumes,
Okay, and then you
if
let
the
me know.
council, if any council member is interested in any party, then we go through
Okay.
Anthony to have that person
That's fine.
invited to the meeting, and then they can
Right.
choose whether they want to come or not.
Yeah, that
It might add 2 people to the list, it might add 0 people to the list,
Okay,
you know.
and I'll wait for.
So
Cameron.
if
Yeah.
a council member reviews a resume and sees somebody they think should be
We'll just
invited to attend, we'll send that name to Anthony, and then we'll add that person to the list.
Yeah.
And they can choose to attend or not choose to attend at their own discretion. The candidate, I mean.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
Just put Thomas on the list though, because I know him.
Tom, so, well,
Yeah.
I would assume it's these 2 plus
Yeah.
any
These
others.
2 already got their slots.
Yeah.
Okay?
6G, oh, John's not here, is it? The resurfacing of Mendham Road, there was an email. I think maybe Kevin, you can,
So just to refresh from the last meeting, county was asking whether we prefer day work or night work for the resurfacing of Mendham Road. And I believe our discussion revolved around, that depends on whether or not school's in session or not when they do the work. So I reached back out to the county engineer. They have no idea when this is going to happen, but they are going to try to coordinate it with our resurfacing of Anderson Hill Road, which is also scheduled for 2019. So I think, the question is, if it's during school, do you have any opposition to them doing this work at night? And if it's during a time when there's no school, they'll probably proceed during the day. I think it's really up to them unless you have any strong feeling one way or the other about it.
I'm trying to remember, one time it was half as long as the other.
nighttime,
Was
I
it
think
nighttime was faster?
Nighttime
Yes.
is quicker.
Well, there's less people trying to go down the road.
Yeah, you don't have to let
There's less
snow
traffic
cars
to deal with.
cars through.
So-
But a lot of, the drawback is a lot of times the residents don't like the noise.
What are the hours, what's the night hours?
It would be overnight.
All full night?
Yeah.
And so I believe what the county said was they would write it, that they would do it at night unless it was the summertime, in which case they do it during,
Right.
unless school was out, in which time they would do it during the day.
They
That
didn't know when they were going.
No, but I mean, I
Right.
think what they were willing to sign up to was, if the eventual date occurs when school is in session, we will work at night. And if the eventual date occurs when school is out, we'll do it during the day. That's the way they were gonna offer to write it up, right?
Yes, and they need, yeah, because they have to write the RFP.
So what we would be approving if we said okay to this idea is that they would work at night unless it was, school was out, in which case they'd work during the day, and it would take twice as long. But, is that what we want them to do?
Yeah.
Take twice as long during the day in the
Yeah, because
summertime?
at night, that'd be, you know.
Well, yeah, that's gonna be
That's
noisy for
an
people that live
imposition
on
on
that, in that area, to have
Okay.
construction going on at night, but
Well, how many nights? How many, what are we
we
talking?
don't know.
Doesn't matter.
They didn't tell us.
Yeah, it's still,
I mean,
noise
we're
is
talking
You're up
noise.
all
night,
night
we're
as well.
talking like a month, I mean, what?
No, but it's a pretty long pole, you know, they're doing from the entire length of Mendon Road, from what I understand. So all the construction's not gonna be concentrated in one area every night, it's gonna move.
It's gonna
Yeah,
keep
so-
going.
Back and forth, I would suspect, although there'll be some additional traffic on the street at night. I think the question is, are we opposed to them doing night work if they need to do night work or prefer to do night work?
Yeah,
And then just
I
see
don't
when
think
the
I'm-
schedule falls.
I don't think night work's a problem. Anybody have a problem with night work? I think it's just, people are less frustrated if they're not, if they're on their way to work trying to, in Mendham Road gets a lot of traffic. There's a lot of people that cut through going to Morristown or whatever, and if they have to stop that and it backs up down to the center of town and it's, yeah.
What's been the experience with other roads? Like, have they done night work before? I mean,
They did
We've done
202.
We've done it at nighttime, we've done it during the day, we've done Claremont Road during the day, it's a lot of traffic.
It was, yeah,
It can be
that was tough.
difficult, the closer to town you get, the more difficult
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
The more, further out you get.
any roads like they've done at night? Just, I'm trying to get a sense of, the residents.
202 was.
202 was
Well, that's, I
night.
wouldn't say that was super residential.
Ladder Road, I think, was the last time we authorized night work on,
Yeah.
on some of the streets. We've paved 202 in the past, during the evening, the state DOT has done that, not the county, with private
I
contractors.
think
So,
it'll be-
we have some experience with night work. We've done Olcott Square at night in the evening. It's a little easier without the traffic, but, it's pretty remote up on Mendham Road, so.
So for the sake of argument, let's just say that the time falls during the summer, and I was going to be during the school year, and they're going to do it at night. How long would it take them if they did the whole thing at night?
I don't know.
But it's 50% of the time of doing it during the
I
day.
understand that,
I don't
but
know,
just
Yeah.
For my own knowledge,
So you're not
are we
gonna
talking about
affect
2 weeks,
same
we talking
neighbors.
about 2
Right.
months,
I
what
think
are we talking
people
about?
are gonna be so happy to
To
have
have
a
it
road
done?
paved that they don't care.
That's true. Yeah.
Well,
Okay, so just
having lived
consensus?
through,
Are we all okay with night?
Recently, yeah, I
That's-
agree with you. Yes.
Yes? Good, okay,
we're saying night unless it's in the
Yes.
summer and then day.
right.
Okay, so we'll approve what they were proposed in their letter.
Well, the plan is for after school's closed, right, Chief?
We don't know, they don't
I
know
have
what the
to
scheduling
respond
is.
based on what I'm
From what we
not
discussed
sure I
with-
got it straight. I don't want to be.
The response that I read was that they don't know when they're gonna do it. But they
Right.
would sign a letter that would say, if school's in, we work at night. If school's out, we work in the daytime.
Yeah.
Is that acceptable to the Borough Council?
John and I were talking about when we're doing Anderson, that we're waiting till after school. So we would like to have the timing the same, so we're, have this, first of all, we want warm weather so it bonds well. And I think it's less disruptive,
Yeah.
so.
So I think they were also trying to coordinate with our paving of Anderson Road. That was a second consideration, which they were also taking into consideration.
Right.
But they didn't guarantee us anything on any of these accounts.
No. I guess as it gets closer, we'll get a better idea.
Yeah, they don't have, they have to put the RFP out, they have
Right.
to see what kind of responses they get. Weather is always a factor, sometimes other jobs are delayed, which causes
Yeah.
those delays,
Yeah.
ripple effect. So it's hard to say exactly when this is going to take place, and they would give me no idea whatsoever as to when they thought they might want to start.
Even a ballpark.
Chief, is it ultimately their discretion, or is they just asking for our input, and if they say it's cheaper for us to do it, deal with it?
It's their
They're
road.
asking for our preference, but I'll defer to Jack on our ordinance, whether or not it applies to the county working at night.
It's probably not subject to our.
Yeah.
We have an ordinance that prohibits, night work, but you know, they're probably not subject to
Right, because
that.
it's their road.
Okay.
Mm.
So,
Okay, thanks, Kevin. JIF representative, I guess that has to be a council member, yes, that volunteers?
It does not have to be a council member.
Ah,
It can be a
okay.
member, but it needs to be a member of the board by the borough. Someone
Or an
on
employee?
my staff.
Historically, it's always been council.
Historically.
Yeah, I
it's
know it
always
was
been-
Mike Sullivan was,
Historically, yes.
and what does that entail? What does the
There-
representative do?
There are meetings, there are 10 meetings in a year. There's no meeting on August, there's no meeting in December. The meetings are held at 8 AM at Scotch Plains, Fanwood, Borough Hall, and they run anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour or a little after an hour. It's set up basically as a mayor and council. This would be a committee member would sit on the dais, and then there's professionals that attend,
Mhm.
and the insurance business is discussed.
Anybody want it?
I couldn't make it with my work schedule.
No, I think that's hard for
No way.
anybody with it, yeah.
Prohibits it.
No way.
So it looks like it's one of you. Do we have to appoint them officially?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll leave that up to you to decide who it is.
Yeah, I'll do it.
You'll do it?
I've discussed this with them.
Ah, okay.
Saw that one coming, huh?
I
Yeah.
think you guys would bail them out, but
No, huh? No such thing, okay.
So I would appoint Anthony by motion then.
All right. So do I have a motion to appoint a JIF representative, Anthony Suriana?
I'll move. Oh, I'll
Go
second.
ahead.
Don't fight.
You
Okay.
move,
I'll move, he
second.
seconds.
John moved. And Jeff seconded. Is that an all in favor?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. There you go. You're good. Course,
our representative.
yes,
Anthony deals with our.
he's got to deal with the
borough's
JIF stuff anyway.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you.
So,
Correspondence, one thing I had was, the library is asking that we participate in their Dr. Seuss Day, which is Saturday, March 2nd. And I know, that, unfortunately, that's also the day for the budget training that League of Municipalities is doing. But it's Saturday, March 2nd, it's 10:30 to noon, and they would like council members to participate either with reading a story or helping with refreshments or anything, if you
I
don't
already
feel
signed up for
comfortable.
full time, so.
Oh, good, okay. So I told Shura I would encourage you all to do what you can. So I think that was, do we have any other correspondence? I think that was,
Yeah, I don't have anything.
The only thing I would note is that I think it's Restaurant Week actually from now till the 27th.
Yes.
So if anybody or their neighbors, friends, people from other towns, we should try and
Support
promote
that.
our local businesses and our local restaurants, and hopefully we'll drum up some success this week.
and if you go to, is it downtownbernardsville.com, it'll tell you which restaurants are participating and what the offers are that they, what the special
And
discounts.
It's a little more than a week, right? It goes from the 14th to the
To
17th, like 13 days or
20
something.
Yeah, yeah. And there were some nice deals on there.
Yeah.
So, worth doing. Anything else?
Well, there was one other thing from the library in addition to the Dr. Seuss. I don't know if everybody else got an email. I did. They wanted to know about a book that impacted us that we'd be willing to discuss, and they wanted us to give that
Oh, yeah.
book name by January 31 to the library. And they had some sort of program, I forget the date, in February, where we might be willing to come and discuss either a children's book that really we loved when we were a kid, or an adult book that really has
No,
influenced
you don't
us.
have to come and discuss it, they just want you to write,
To write it
to
up.
write a little
Okay,
bit
maybe I
about
misunderstood that.
Blurb.
why you liked the book or why it impacted you, and then, they're gonna put like a copy of the book, and I guess maybe
and
your
then the
picture
write-up.
with what you said about it, on the table, and then they're gonna probably have all the books on the
Okay.
table. That's the way I
Okay.
understood it.
It has to be in print, too. My first suggestion was the book is no longer in print, so they said, we'll try and get the book, when you recommend, but it was out of print in 1975, so, okay.
Okay. Anything else? We're good. All right. Need a motion to move into closed session.
I'll move.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Might we come out of closed session, Jack? Do we need to say that if we're?
Well, we used to adjourn, we used to say we were adjourning at the conclusion of closed session, but we've had several instances.
Where you
recently
don't
where
get-
we wanted
yeah.
to take action after closed session.
Right.
Because we were going to close the meeting, so I suggest we leave it open
Yeah,
and then adjourn at the conclusion of closed session.
okay. So, thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to mention that I've asked Jack for the next meeting to, and again, I think because we have a fairly new council, I'm new, we got a bunch of new people, that what I'd like to do is have Jack, and he's done it before, do his little mini training kind of thing of just getting everybody up to speed of what the ordinances are and what we're allowed to do and not allowed to do. And he sent me today his the outline that he did in 2015, and it's basically talking about the forms of government, meeting procedures, when you need a quorum, those kind of things, how some budget things, what's allowed in executive session, contracts, the ethics law, when you'd have a conflict of interest, Oprah, what the different boards do, and just, those kinds of things, dealing with the public, dealing with employees. So just kind of an overview orientation. So if everyone is okay with that, what we'll do is maybe at the end of the public session, do a half an hour, one meeting, if we don't get through it, carry it over, do some more at the next meeting. And it's public, so anybody can sit and listen, and, sometimes it's good for the public to hear those things too.
Okay.
We good with that?
I would encourage them, can we publicize that we're gonna do that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just, because, people always say, well, how come you have a council and they have a committee, and, they don't understand the different forms of government, so those are,
Statutory boards, advisory.
yeah, I think it is. It's something everyone should know. That's a good point. Yeah, I think we should advertise it. So that was the only thing I had for public.
Helps me do actually.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Really, really refreshing.
Motion to adjourn?
I move.
Second.
Adjourned. Hang on.